Hi, my name is Richard Pennycook and welcome to Export Kit. In this example, we're going to take a look at how our output renders when we're actually using HTML exports and dependent on our design. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually export this design as is, and you can see that this is an image for our box cover, but this does contain a few layers, mainly our image layers, which is contained within a sides folder. We have a simple effect of, you can see if we hide these here, we have basically a shadow effect for our box. And we also have a few lighting effects that we have contained in another folder. So I'm going to discuss the layer structure after the export. So let's go ahead and log in. Now, once we log in, what you want to do is tab over to the exports panel and select HTML5. We don't really need to customize this simply because we're going to deal with the design errors immediately. So let's just go ahead and let this complete. This shouldn't take long. It's a pretty quick export. Okay, so once the export's complete, we can go ahead and take a look at the output. Now you'll see off the bat that the output looks slightly different from our actual PSD design itself. So if we just hide the panel, you'll see that our PSD design kind of shines and glistens more, and the image itself, it has the correct measurements. So you'll see that there's no bleeding on the sides versus our actual HTML output. So what I'm going to discuss is how we can fix these and the reasons why these happen. Now, if we go back to our PSD design, you'll see that what we have in our effects is we have various lighting effects, and these effects will encompass different shapes, and you can tell here in our design. The issue with this is effects are treated differently in many environments, especially HTML, so it will not render the same as Photoshop. What we simply suggest is that you can convert this to a smart object. So what this will do is the object itself will now have a few benefits. One, it will render the way that the image will render in HTML. So you'll see that the actual lighting effects are slightly different than what we expected. And this will actually now correspond with the output that you'll see. You'll see that it kind of matches the tone of the output. This is because HTML will render your lighting effects very differently. But when we convert it to a smart object, it will give us a similar feel to our HTML design. The next thing we want to do is we want to look at the individual images. So you can see here we have our left side and we have our right side. Now, a slight issue that we have with these images is that we have effects applied. Now again, HTML is a very different environment. What these effects will do, especially when we're using shadows, basically it will increase the size of the actual layer itself, so you'll end up getting an unexpected size in your output. So if we go back and we take a look at the HTML, you'll see that what happened is that it now has this extra area around the image, so it looks almost as if the image is bleeding outside of its actual measurement. Now this is because what we have is we have basically layer effects enabled that will increase the size in the HTML output. So again, what we want to do simply is convert this to a smart object. So you can see smart objects are your friend in Export Kit. Now, we did not lose anything when we converted it to a smart object because we can re-expand this if we like with our object tag, but I'll cover that in another tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and export this with these changes. So if we go back to our exports panel and we select HTML5 and we simply run the export. Now you can see it's much faster because it has less layers to process. So if we go back and we basically refresh the page, you'll see now that our HTML output now matches our Photoshop design. So if we go and we hide this, oh, so you can see I actually didn't save that. So let me just go ahead and redo these again. Okay, so basically now this is our Photoshop design, and you can see that our output is exactly pixel perfect. And you can see that it actually has the individual layer elements because you can see we're dragging the lighting styles that are encompassed with the actual design. So everything is an individual element. So this is a simple way to optimize your Photoshop design if you notice that there are some graphical errors in the output.